We go with your FCS plays for Saturday morning. He's placed 3-1 last week, an amazing 39-17 over the last 3 years. Let's hop right into it and start off with Delaware State at Sacred Heart. It's a great way to learn about these teams is to have Phil Steele Plus. You get all this information at your fingertips. Well, last week we won with Delaware State against St. Francis. The Hornets were minus 6.5. They led 26-3 at the half and won 39-10. This week, Delaware State travels to Sacred Heart. The Hornets are 3-1 straight up, 3-0 ATS, and their only loss was by 18 points to Delaware. We'll go right over here. You see right here, they lost to Delaware by 18. Delaware's playing pretty good this year. They were only outgained in that game, 409-349, as you see. Sacred Heart's 3-1 as well, but all three of their wins were by 5 points or less. They caught Long Island off their first ever win over an FBS foe and pulled the upset 24-21. Last week, they only beat Norfolk State 31-28. And they were outgained in that game. You can always see the red brings your attention. Like here, you're noticing weak offense to start the year. Here, they allowed 210, 340. The red numbers jump out to you in that respect. In the run game, they allowed... let's see what we got here. Pulled the upset. Last week, they only beat Norfolk State. Outgained. Norfolk State had 3 turnovers and missed 2 field goals. Now, Delaware State is all green in their run game. If you take a look here, green is anything over 200 yards rushing. They've got 4 green performances. They're averaging 287 yards per game, 5.9. Meanwhile, Sacred Heart's allowing 184 yards per game, 5.8. And last week, they gave up 210, 6.8 to Norfolk State. Delaware State has already won more games this year than they did the previous 2 years. The AGG only has Delaware State by 2, but if you remove this 37.9 they had against Bowie State, and the reason it's 37.9, Bowie State we don't even chart. They're a Division 2 school, so that brings this grade down. So if you just add in these 3 grades, the 71, the 74, and the 80, then that shows them by 11. And that's what we're going to go with here. So the AGG's there, the matchups there. You got green versus a weak rush defense. We think that Delaware State continues to run with a win by double digits here. We're taking Delaware State minus 6.5, 33-20 over Sacred Heart. All right, your next game, we got Elon is at home over here on the right, and they are taking on Hampton, and we'll put Hampton over here on the left. Let's find Hampton. There we go. All right. Hampton Pirates. Didn't even know that. Elon Phoenix. You learn about these schools, and it's all right here at your fingertips. You want to know who the top players are? They're all right there. You want to know how they're doing in an individual game basis? It's up to date each and every week. You want to know how they did in the individual game basis last year? It's right there. Just click on the individual player leaders. All right, let's see what we got here. Elon finished last year on a 4-game win streak. So let's go over here to Elon. As you see, they started out slow and won their last 4 games. They are 2-2, 3-1 ATS this year. Their 2 losses are to Duke, which that's not a bad loss. And by the way, this Duke game, that was 24-17 in the 4th quarter. Duke scored 3 late touchdowns to make it 45-17. So they actually played Duke closer than that final score would indicate. They crushed Davidson and beat Western Carolina on the road. The Phoenix have a 7th-year head coach in Tony Cristiani. They returned 7 starters this year. Redshirt Frosh Landon Clark has a 7-3 ratio, as you see here. He's right there. And he's also their leading rusher with 217 yards. Hampton was just 5-7 last year, but only has 4, or was 5-7 last year, but only has 4 starters back, including 1 on offense for second-year head coach Trent Boykin. They opened the year with a 14-point loss to Jackson State, trailed by 20-10 against Elizabeth City State. That would bring their AGG down right there. And they scored the game-winning 47-yard TD run with 39 seconds left against Elizabeth City State. Don't even know who they are. Last week, Hampton was minus 3 at home against Howard. The Pirates were outgained 456-215 and in a 34-7 loss, pretty much dominated. The AGG has Elon by 34. The computer has Elon by 25, and they're only minus 14.5 at home. Elon has a big edge on defense. They're holding opponents to 14 yards, or they're allowing opponents 14 above. They're allowing 90 above on the season, giving up 228 rush. They face a tougher schedule, and with both the AGG and the computer on our side, we see a lot of reasons to play the Phoenix here. Take Elon minus 14.5 over Hampton. All right, East Tennessee State is at home. Let's put them over here on the right. East Tennessee State. What's their nickname? The Buccaneers. And they are taking on Mercer. Let's go put Mercer over here on the left. Mercer. Become an instant expert on these teams with this Phil Steele Plus. By the way, quick note for you. Phil Steele Plus right here. You just go to the store on our website. You can get Phil Steele Plus for $99 for the year. If you subscribe to any of these Inside the Press Box, you get Phil Steele Plus for free. This, by the way, that's weekly. Let's take a look at the season. Here's your college, $169. That price is going to drop pretty soon, but it's $99 for Phil Steele Plus. You get that included with your Press Box subscription. And if you're looking for the FCS digital magazine, you have to go under digital editions. So when you go under digital editions, right here, you can get the FCS preview magazine for $25. That gets you 2 full pages on every FCS team. It's laid out the exact same way, including last 5 years spread logs, the exact same way the regular magazine is. It's just $25. The FCS preview magazine, get that right there. But you have to go under digital editions at the Phil Steele store to get it. And that's 2 full pages on every team. You become an instant expert. All right, let's see what we got here. Mercer was a playoff team last year. Look at that. Great team. Won a lot of games. They lost in the quarterfinals to North Dakota State. This is second-year head coach Mike Jacobs. He had 9 starters back, only has 9 starters back, and they lost 6 first or second team all SoCon players. They opened up against UC Davis. And trailed 22-3. Am I on the right team here? Mercer. Yeah, Mercer. They opened up against UC Davis and trailed 22-3. I don't see that. They rallied to get within 6, and then the game was... Oh, that's why. Okay. They opened up against UC Davis. They trailed 22-3. They rallied to get within 6, and the game was canceled due to a lengthy storm and declared no contest. That's why it's not in here. Okay. I was like, our pages are wrong. No, they're not. They were minus 25 and lost to Presbyterian 15-10. That's not good. They only beat Wofford, which is 0-4 this year, 22-1, 22-21. And last week they won 38-0 at the Citadel with a 457, 194-yard edge. Eastern Tennessee State is 2-2. They beat Murray State 45-17 in the opener. Had an expected blowout loss at Tennessee. 2 weeks ago we used Eastern Tennessee State plus 5.5 at West Georgia. East Tennessee State led 31-20 in the fourth quarter and allowed 88-10 and 71-5 drives. West Georgia didn't take their first lead until 15 seconds were left in the game, and they actually lost that game. Eastern Tennessee State's quarterback, Cade McNamara, now you guys recognize him from Michigan and Iowa, right? He was a VHT, PS20. He only has a 2-4 ratio, but he's hitting 67%. He started 30 career games at Iowa and Michigan. And they have PS number 30 North Carolina transfer, Jacoby Criswell. Look at that. That's pretty impressive. He was PS 30. Last year at Mercer, Eastern Tennessee State threw for a program record 459 yards. At Mercer, there it is. They threw for 459 yards, a program record, but had 4 turnovers, a blocked punt return for a touchdown, and 10 penalties. In that game, against a really good Wofford team, they had a 407 to 178-yard edge, 22-9 first down edge. Look at that. But they lost the game 37-31. Now, new head coach Will Healy has brought in 27 transfers on offense. The AGG has East Tennessee State by 7. The computer has East Tennessee State by 1. East Tennessee State has covered their last 4 as underdogs versus fellow FCS teams. And we're calling for the outright upset here. Take East Tennessee State plus 4 over Mercer. That's East Tennessee State plus 4. All right, your next one, we take a look at Nicholls against Eastern Kentucky. Eastern Kentucky is at home. Let's put them on the right. Eastern Kentucky. See what we got. The Colonels. I watched a lot of Eastern Kentucky games during the COVID year. They were playing, if you go back to 2020, I watched a lot of these games. Marshall, West Virginia. Even the Houston Baptist game, I think, was televised. It was during the fall, so they were televising everything. But these games that were in the fall, I was watching all these games with Eastern Kentucky. Parker McKinley, Alonzo Booth. Booth was a pretty good runner back then. I remember them from that. Let's go back to this year, though. That's just thought I'd bring that up. They were playing Nicholls. And I can tell you one thing. Nicholls has a good defense. And let's see what we got here. Last year, Nicholls allowed just 23 points per game, right here, and 292 yards per game. They held their opponents to 77 yards per game below their average, number 7. The last 6 games went under the total. Eastern Kentucky has allowed 24 points per game and 388 yards per game. In 6 of their last 7 games went under the total. This year, Nicholls returned 10 starters, including 6 on defense, and have a first-year head coach in Tommy Rybacki. They are 1-3 and average just 13 points per game. Look at this red over here. Nicholls can't move the ball. They can't run it. Your top rusher is Brock after 4 games. He's got 176 yards. But look at this, 81 yards per game, 2.7. So a weak offense for Nicholls. Their offense is averaging, if you go over here and look, 154 yards per game below what their opponent's average. And what this column means is if they gain 205 or if they gain 224 yards here and it's 205 below average, that means Texas State on the usual allows 429 yards per game when they're not playing Nicholls State. When they played Nicholls State, they held them 205 below. 205, 226, 92, 91, 154 below. So they have a weak offense. While their D is giving up 28 points per game and 357 yards per game, 2 of those games were against Troy and Texas State. So those were 2 tough games. I know they had a good D last year, and they got 6 starters back this year. Eastern Kentucky returned 13 starters, 7 on defense. They're allowing just 355 yards per game, but if you remove Louisville, where they gave up 542, in these FCS games, I only gave up 377 to Marshall. In the 2 FCS games, they've given up 259 and 242. They're allowing just 292 yards per game if you eliminate this 542. Last week, they gave up 33 points at West Georgia and also held West Georgia to a season-low 242 yards. My computer only has 32 total points, 16-16, with Nicholls having a 243, 223-yard edge. So the computer loves the under here. The total is 49. You would expect the total to be much lower with these 2 weak offenses. Look at this, red, 167 below, 154 below. The play here is under 49. We got Eastern Kentucky 17 and Nicholls 16. I should say Chris has it. Eastern Kentucky 17, Nicholls 16. All right, let's get to your 5th game here. And it is Sacramento State, and they are at home, and they're taking on Cal Poly. Let's learn about these 2 teams. Cal Poly on the left. You really should get, if you don't already have Phil Steele Plus, you could be doing this with every single game you look at every single week. All this information at your fingertips. Hey, look at that. Brennan Marion, that's the guy that was at UNLV running that fancy offense there. How's this offense doing? Ooh, it's picking up. It looks like they're catching on. Well, South Dakota State and Nevada, they're out of their league. Now that they hit the league, look at this, 525, 602. I'm just looking at Phil Steele Plus, and I got all that just looking at the team page, not knowing anything about the Sacramento State Hornets. But let's see what Chris has to say. Sacramento State's making a play to move up to FBS soon. They've raised $50 million in the hopes of joining the rebuilt Pac-12 conference. New head coach Brendan Marion was the OC at UNLV. Naturally, they were active in the portal, adding 45 transfers, including 38 from the FBS, 7 from the FCS. They were a playoff team in 23, but last year, their starting quarterback, let's take a look at 23. And so your starting quarterback is Caden Bennett. And Caden Bennett, if you look here, got injured week 2. And I love the individual stats. They tell you all this stuff. So he got injured week 2, and all of a sudden their season went downhill after that in 2024. I believe I've mentioned Caden Bennett before. I think he's playing for another team. I think we've used him on the tour in previous weeks. You guys probably know that. They finished just 3-8 last year because of that. Now this year they brought in Jalen Rashada, who you guys know from Florida, Arizona State, whole bunch of places. He was 11-27 in the opener. Let's go take a look at that. 11-27, but that's South Dakota State. South Dakota State's really good. And then they put up 3 points in 131 yards. They turned to Tulsa quarterback Cardell Williams. I remember Cardell from Tulsa. And they only lost to Nevada by 3. They were minus 20.5 and beat Mercyhurst 49-28. They were minus 12.5 against Central Arkansas. The Hornets put up 600. Let's go take a look at that. The Hornets put up 602 yards. Like I said, Brennan Marion's offense catching on here. 602 yards, 45 points. Cal Poly's led by third-year head coach Paul Wolf. The Mustangs have 10 starters back from a 3-8 team. They did add Pitt transfer Ty Diffenbach at QB. They won at San Diego in the opener, had an expected loss to Utah, and then crushed Western Oregon. Last week, Diffenbach injured his leg early. Let's see what Diffenbach has been doing on an individual basis. 263, 6-9 against Utah, but that's a struggle. 8 of 11, 192, 1 of 2. So then they went to Jackson Atkins, who had 13 of 29, had a 1-3 ratio. He threw 3 ints. They lost 35-17 to SF Austin. Sac State has a loaded roster that's improving weekly. As I mentioned, Brendan Marion's offense catching on. They are at home, and Cal Poly Diffenbach unlikely to play. Chris expects Sac State to pull away in the second half and win by over 3 touchdowns. Take Sac State minus 16.5 over Cal Poly. There's your 5 plays. I've got a bonus for you. I forgot to bring it up on the other one. If you go to the FBS team pages, I used it last year as a quick hitter. I'm going to use it again. Go to Arkansas State. This is just an amazing series. I want to show you this one. If we look at Arkansas State here, let's go click on the opponent against ULM. I used it last year. You know how I am about streaks. Look at this. Arkansas State has won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 straight games. Now, you could tell that just by that. You don't have to look at the score. If it's green, they won the game. Same thing over here. You don't have to look at the line and try to say, did they cover, did they cover? No, it's all here. If it's green, they covered 15 in a row. I used it last year on the tour. I sort of was looking at, maybe ULM is a good team. I don't know. Guess what? They did it again. They won 28-21, minus 2.5. They just win each and every year, 15 in a row. So a quick hitter, take Arkansas State. I believe they're the underdog. I should have looked that up prior, but I'm going to look it up for you right now. Arkansas State, I believe they are the underdog. Yeah, they're a 1.5-point underdog to a team that hasn't beaten them since 2009. So we're going to take Arkansas State as your quick hitter, plus 1.5 against ULM. That'll do it for your FCS tour. Hopefully we have another big batch of winners. As mentioned, the FCS plays an outstanding 39-17 the last 3 years. And thanks for taking the tour. Make sure you get that FCS digital magazine. Make sure you're a Phil Steele Plus member. And thanks for taking the Phil Steele Plus tour.